Hey DRB people, it's Hunter here somewhere on the outskirts of Beaumont, Texas. A very cold day it has been, a long day of driving, and we are glad to finally be stopped for the night. Before I head back into the Tin Can Turtle, I did want to reach out to you and talk a little bit about this week's reflection. This is week 5 in our journey through the Bible, and this week's thought it doesn't come specifically from a passage that we've read in this week's readings. Instead, it's just more of some reflections from my own journey, and it's been inspired in part by these long drives and listening to long podcasts along the way. On Highway 10 or Interstate 10, there are a lot of billboards, and there's lots of messages on those billboards. And this particular podcast that I was listening to, it's the Tim Ferriss Show, and these are really long conversations. But at the end of many of Tim Ferriss's podcasts, he will often pose the question to his guests: if you could have one message to post on a billboard, what would that be? And this particular gentleman that he was interviewing responded with this. He said, if I could have one message, it would be, what are you becoming? And I thought that was good. That really kind of caught my attention. It made me think, and that's an important question for us. What are we becoming? It's important that we take that kind of inventory, right, of our lives. Socrates said, the unexamined life isn't worth living. And to know thyself. I mean, these are important truths that we have to grapple with if we're going to live a life of purpose. And so that, I thought that was good. What are you becoming? But what struck me was not necessarily that. What really struck me when he said that was what I would what I would write on a billboard. And I'm sure you're probably thinking of those same things now as the question's been posed. You've already probably got an idea of what you would have on a billboard. Well, the thing that came to my mind was, what have you become? It's not very different from this other gentleman's response, but that little distinction between what are you and what you have you is really important. And I think there's a world of difference in that little article, because the gospel is primarily a declaration of what has been done. It's a pronouncement of good news. It's not aspirational in nature, right? The gospel isn't, if you do these things, then you will become this kind of person. No, that's not what the gospel is. It's not transactional in that way. It's not aspirational. It's not a matter of striving and trying. Instead, the gospel is a pronouncement of something that has been done. It is a pronouncement of good news. What God has done has made you something new, right? You have become something else because of what God has done. That's the gospel. That's worth putting on a billboard. What have you become is an important question. Paul said this in 2 Corinthians 2:19, God was in Christ reconciling the world to himself, not counting their sins against them. Therefore, he's given us this wonderful message, a wonderful message worth putting on a billboard on Interstate 10, a wonderful message of reconciliation. It's a pronouncement. You have been reconciled to God right now, just as you are. It's what God has accomplished. in his coming, in his giving of himself, in his living and dying and being raised from the dead. This is what is true. And in that, he has drawn you into his life. So now you are reconciled, you're his child, you are new, you are free. You're free. You're free of fear. You're free of the incessant need to try to perform or to become something or someone. You know, you can begin to rest in what you are. And what you are is loved. And what you are is God's. And that is worth putting on a billboard on Interstate 10. At least I think so. Well, hey, that's my reflection for the day. What would you put on a billboard, given the chance? Send me an email or something and let me know. All right, friends. What do you say we show up again tomorrow at the podcast? I'll meet you there. We're going to march into, I think we're finishing up Exodus, but it should be fun. Thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for keeping me company here in the truck. Until tomorrow, let's go forward in God's joy. Let's let his joy be our strength. And let us always remember this, that you are loved. No doubt about that. All right, I'll talk to you again tomorrow. You guys take care. Bye-bye.